Hello friends, Silver here, and welcome to my Boku no Hero Chapter 107 review. This was definitely an interesting chapter. We got to see some uncharacteristic sides of multiple different characters. But first up, let's start with the summary. So the chapter begins, we have Bakugou's new special move, the AP Shot Autocannon. I'm assuming AP stands for Armor Piercing. He uses much more focused blasts and controls his ability. We learn the name of the gross blobby guy. His name is Shishikura Seiji. We also learn that his ability is called Processed Meat, so just as gross as we thought when we were introduced to him last chapter. And just as an aside, I really hate OP characters that have instant win abilities, as he's demonstrated to have. You know, he basically touches you, you instantly become a blob of meat and he wins. It's just kind of stupid. It feels super cheap. I think as viewers, we generally expect things to be somewhat fair, and this sort of messes with our expectations. It feels dissatisfying. So the only solution generally is for a character like that to be quickly defeated, and that's exactly what happens here, but let's back up a bit before we get to him being defeated. What ends up happening after we learn his ability is that he can just leave off chunks of his body. They appear to become fingers, regardless of what part of his body they come from, and they can just move around, and he has complete control of them. As we learned, he sends one under the bridge, using the rest of his blobs as a distraction, and he manages to attack Bakugou from behind and turn Bakugou into an angry meat blob. Then we get some more of this. You know, the author's trying to make you hate Seiji if you didn't already. He's doing the standard naturalistic fallacy. I'm strong, therefore I'm justified in abusing my power and judging others because I'm strong, so I get to do this because I can. And he rather obviously acts like a villain, and he really, you would think that, like the UA entrance exam, there would be some sort of moral component to tests like this. And you would think he would fail it just based off his behavior. He seems, given his attitude, like he's a danger to society. He has a combination of some sociopathic traits, doesn't really have a lot of empathy, his power's really broken, and he doesn't seem to have a lot of good judgment with it. So that was a little concerning. I had to reread the chapter a few times, so I was a little bit confused as to what happened. I think that might have more been me than the paneling, because normally the paneling's pretty good. So maybe I was just having kind of an off day. But what ended up happening is Kaminari then has to have a showdown with Seiji, and he distracts him after talking back to him a bit and antagonizing him. He throws out one of Bakugou's grenades, and he explains that those grenades are not just decorative, that he asked Bakugou once, and after Bakugou yelled at him, he explained that they're real grenades, that he's filled with, I guess, some of his napalm sweat that he secretes from his hands. And he throws one of the grenades at Seiji, and then we learn that Kaminari has another new ability, that he can direct his electrical attacks by pointing and selecting between targets with what appear to be upside-down sunglasses that he wears on his face. Mei from UA seemed to, with her master, make all of this stuff for Kaminari. And Kaminari also starts thinking and realizes that Bakugou was being really thoughtful before when he used his new AP attack, that it's much more focused and it's not full strength, and so he was shielding everyone else, the other meat people and Kaminari, from getting some sort of from becoming collateral damage, essentially, from getting some of the area effect of his explosions. And so Kaminari, after using the grenade and having all of these different thoughts and explanations, he shocks Seiji. Seiji yells at him, but because Kaminari was able to damage Seiji, it seems that his ability has worn off, so that is a good check on his power. Before I was complaining about him being OP, so if he gets damaged, everyone goes back to being normal. That's a decent trade-off. So he gets damaged, and everyone is free, and Bakugou and Kirishima both come out of their meat blob state and defeat Seiji. They all realize everyone else is free too, and Bakugou then thirsts for the blood of his enemies and is basically licking his lips at the fact that he gets to crush all of these other small fry. We then jump back to what all of our primary characters are doing. We got Ochako, Seru, and Deku. And we see that Deku's plan was to have, which is the plan that Seru doubted, was to have Seru take tape and kind of spread it across the battlefield, connecting it to different pieces of debris, and then to have Ochako send the debris and kind of throw it out so that it pulls the tape taut and traps all of the other enemy students under it. And we get to see that the plan works, and that there's an older student begging Deku not to knock him out of the exam, but Deku's resolve doesn't waver and he takes the guy out, seemingly rather ruthlessly. And then we learn from one of the observers that all of the UA students have passed, none of them were knocked out, and that the current plan for the next phase of the exam is to have a combination of children and the elderly try to defeat the students. So, a couple of points on just the chapter in general. It was nice seeing Kaminari being smart and thoughtful, which is sort of a side we haven't seen of him so far. Generally, he's been a comedic character. He's sort of a really ditzy version of Laxus from Fairy Tail. They even have kind of the old version of him had the headphones. And often in the past, he would overload himself, he'd look stupid, people would laugh, and it would just be a comedic thing. But here we get to see a different side of him. And I know that a lot of people buy into the theory that he's the traitor, so it's nice to see him participate in a meaningful way, where you actually liked him, and you saw a helpful and, important side of him. He actually played a main part in the story, and was helpful in facilitating, things actually happening. And now, what that also does is if he does end up being the traitor, it's more impactful, because you now start to kind of like him. He isn't just, this funny guy, he's evil, okay. Now it's like, we have character development, he's nice, he's helping them. He got upset because the guy was insulting his friends. You start to like him more. So now if he is the traitor, it's more impactful. And if he doesn't become the traitor, well, he's just a better character now, so that's good too, it's win-win. Also, it was nice to see more evidence of Bakugou's continued development as a character. He's being more insightful, he's being a team player. Outwardly, he still sounds the same, he still looks the same, but his behavior is different. It says that he's maturing. But we also got to see a surprisingly ruthless side of Deku, so this is a third character who's done something a little bit different in this chapter. And I think this makes sense. Even though it's surprising to see him in the paneling was kind of very dramatic, it makes sense, and it's not out of character, even though it seems like it at first, because he really wants to be a pro-hero. And plus, he, like all of the other UA students, have been in much more threatening and demanding situations, so it's great to see them really drawing upon those experiences and demonstrating they can really think in unpredictable situations, and that they have the resolve to continue on, even if they have to end other people's dreams to fulfill their own. So I think that was a nice bit of additional character development. And as for the last kind of part about the next phase of the exam having old people and kind of children, there was one person who looked like a baby, I would have thought they wouldn't be allowed to be heroes if they're actually children. So I'm wondering if they are heroes who just look like they're children, because plenty of the current characters who are in high school easily seem like they're strong enough to be pro-heroes, like Todoroki in particular. So, given his strength, he probably could have been a pro-hero when he was a small kid, too, just because he's super OP and he's basically the product of a eugenics experiment that his father was running. So, I'm curious to see whether they're actually children, because what's the point of making everyone wait till they're in high school to become pro-heroes if some people can just do it when they're a toddler? So, maybe they just have really broken abilities, but why aren't they famous pro-heroes then? So, that's a little bit strange, but we'll learn more about that next week. The other kind of theme towards the ending, and something that's been kind of laced through this arc, is the prejudice against first-year students. And it kind of reminds me a little bit of the rookie crushing from Hunter x Hunter, and from we've seen this in other manga, books in general. Real life, people don't like when other people are sort of ahead of where they were or are having an easier time than they did. So I suppose it makes sense. The jealousy is sort of understandable. Anyway, that's my review. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe for more manga and anime reviews. Robo Oso and I are going to be, later tonight, releasing our new One Piece chapter review when she gets back from work. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.